Hello and welcome to Market Psychology 101, where we look for value in the markets when there's fear and are cautious when there's greed. In today's video, I'm going to be taking a look at Bitcoin, the rainbow chart, and other macro indicators to try to find our best educated guess of where we currently are in the cycle and how far we may still be from an alt season. So starting off with fear and greed, as you can see, crypto holding up in the neutral territory. It did get down into fear last week, but as you can see, had somewhat of a bottoming process. It might still come up, but as you look here at this chart within the last year, you can see that this is still definitely a downtrend. We have lower lows, lower highs, so we may still see greed come up somewhere around the 70s range and still spike down. So we have to invalidate at least this trend as far as how it's looking right now. Something else to keep in mind if you're one that likes seasonality is that as far as February goes, it does tend to be one of the better months overall for crypto. You can see that on average, the best months would be April, which is coming up pretty shortly, and then November. November overall is the best month, then April, and then we have October, May, and then February. So February, it's in the top half as far as best months for crypto. So far, we really haven't seen that. And again, this is just seasonality, and the variables every month, every cycle do change. So that's why I don't like to be too married or too attached to seasonality charts. I think it's something to take with a grain of salt, and if it adds up to other data, great. But if not, that's okay. It's just something to keep in the back of our mind. Of course, as I get further into this video, and many of you watching are probably wondering, when is alt season? Is crypto going to have an alt season? You might be thinking to yourself, I've seen other people make lots of money, and I've heard about this alt season thing. What's that all about? Let me be very clear, and I'll show you on the rainbow chart, and I'll say this every time I do this video, as long as I remember to say it, that we do not get alt season. That rotation that I just showed you, we don't get this rotation into Ethereum and the other large caps and mid caps and small caps where you see people getting rich, getting a 5x, 10x, 20, 50x in a matter of a month. You do not see that until Bitcoin is topped or is in the process of topping. So the last two cycles, that is when alt season took place, right after Bitcoin topped and as Bitcoin was in the process of finding its top. So if that is to hold true yet again for this cycle, what that tells me at the very least is that Bitcoin hasn't topped yet. And you can see here on the rainbow chart where that topping range might be. Now, conservatively speaking, I'm not looking for Bitcoin to get up into these reddish areas. You see here how there's this downward trend from the peaks. I'm fine with Bitcoin getting into the orange areas. So let's say you are in the camp of where you believe that crypto over the last few cycles, you can see that it's topped in the post-halving year. You can see the halvings down here, but it's topped November, December, the post-halving year. Okay, November, December, post-halving year. You can see that right there. November, December. Now this one was different. We had money printing, but we did get the actual Bitcoin top here, November, December. Alt season did take place here, though. However, so last cycle, a little bit odd because we had all that money printing, stimulus checks going on. But would this be more of a regular cycle? Some people are saying that the top was going to be in March or April, 4 years from this time. Other people are saying it's just another 4-year cycle. Let me be clear. I don't care when this takes place. It can happen at a 4-year cycle. It can happen next month. It can happen in the middle of next year. What I am looking for is when Bitcoin is getting up into these orange areas. So if you're in the 4-year cycle camp, you can see that those orange boxes between 150 to 240K, if that is later this year. If you believe it's coming up sooner than later, let's say April, 4 years from the alt season last cycle, you might be looking for 124 to 205K. So do know these numbers change as far as their values over time. So that's what we are looking for. And until that time, you might see a lot of volatility in the crypto markets. You can take a look at a chart like this, for example, that whatever type of cycle we're in. Some people like to compare it because of what's happened in the past. Every cycle is a little bit different, but what you can take away from this overall is that on the way to the top, remember, this is where alt season happened. This is where alt season happened. On the way to the top, you do get these great opportunities to dollar cost average in to your favorite altcoins. And there are many ways to look at altcoins as far as the charts. I do that in other videos during the live stream, so subscribe if you want to hear more about that. But just keep in perspective, when you get these big dips, that is not the time to go away and leave crypto. If you believe in alt season and you're really trying to make some great money, should another alt season happen, you're looking to get those discounts when they happen. So those are the times to strike when there's fear in the market. And as you can see, ever since, let's go back here, ever since last October, so getting close to half a year away, we have not seen fear and neutrality in the crypto markets. So we're getting in that, we're on the edge of very good, juicy discount territory, in my opinion. Going over to the alt season index, you can see this has been in an uptrend ever since later 2023. And so we were just at a higher low. So again, something to keep in mind. We talked about the rainbow chart. And again, we were looking at, let's just say on average, we'll go out to October here. I'm looking at those orange boxes, 145 to 230K. We'll see. But again, I'm just going by the confidence that we have in this logarithmic regression cycle. And if you're new to this and you don't know what a log scale is, logarithmic goes up by factors of 10, as you can see here, and it regresses over time. So I know people don't like thinking or talking about it, but when they were tracking the data for COVID statistics and infections, it was on a logarithmic regression cycle with the infections. And crypto overall has been in, or Bitcoin at least, has been in one of these log regression trends. So that increases consumer confidence in what Bitcoin's going to do and where the value is, where it's overvalued, things such as that. On my channel, I also talk about Bitcoin mining stocks. I'll do one of those videos probably on Wednesday, so stay tuned for those. Bitcoin miners, the stocks, you can take a look at their balance sheets. You get a little bit more insight. So I do like that about the Bitcoin mining stocks, and they act very similar to altcoins. So I think they are on the safer end, not financial advice, but safer end for types of alts where you can make some good money in them by the time there's alt season. All right, so as far as keeping in perspective, you might see two camps. And again, I don't care about when. I think our strategy has to be more important than predictions. But you see two camps going on out there that some people are saying there's probably a top soon. And if it doesn't happen, then there's no alt season and it's over and crypto sucks. So you have this camp saying that, well, from every bottom, if you take every bottom and measure out in time to the eventual peak, and you can go back, check my math, that would put us sometime around March of this year. Okay. And then you have other people, more the 4-year cycle camp people saying, well, if you take the average from the halvings, that's these white lines right here. We can go back. All the white vertical lines are the halvings. If you average that out, then a peak might be in August, might be in September. Some people just go by time. Hey, it's going to be November, December again. Again, I don't care. It will happen when it happens. And the variables in the greater economy and the stock market, that changes every cycle. So we do have to keep track of other data out there. Now, as far as where Bitcoin price is right now, you might see I have this trend line drawn from the double top of the last cycle. And you can see that on the weekly, Bitcoin is getting down to that double top trend line. Now, we do have this 20-week moving average. So if we see a little bit of a breakdown there, you see that the bottom of this wick right here, that low at around 89K, lines up with the 20-week moving average. And it is normal for Bitcoin to test the 20-week, and it might go under. You can see last year in August, it got to the 50-week. And in a lot of people's minds, the 50-week, this gold band, is the difference between bullishness and bearishness. Now, you hear bearish, sometimes people think that's a bad word. When I hear bearish, I think of great discounts. So when you hear bearish, that's usually a good time to look to buy in. But we can go to prior cycles, and from this is just in the last cycle, you can see that once it started to move in this uptrend, those 20-week moving averages, that's the last time you could really get in. So, but overall, we did have this mid-cycle correction, COVID, just going back, whoop, oh my gosh, what did I do? Going back over to the, what did I do here? We'll go back over to the chart. I'm on a Mac right now, and so whenever I use the mouse, it's just one of those finger pads, and sometimes it doesn't take a lot to scroll it away. So I do apologize for the slight delay in that. We'll get this going again. All right, but we're going to take a look at 2017. All right, so let's get back over there. Thanks for bearing with me here. All right, my fingers just got too excited. That sounded wrong. All right, so here we can see this was the 2017 top. You can see that the 20-week moving average were the best times to buy. Now we did hit the 50-week, but when this uptrend started, these 20-week moving averages aren't so bad. So going back over to where we are right now, whenever Bitcoin is at the 20-week, the 50-week, I think it is important to look at what it's doing, and is it forming a base? Is it looking to go higher, lower? We can look at a couple different RSIs on the weekly, and you can see the stochastic RSI, it is still bottoming out. So this tells me we may still see a little bit lower to go, and that would be fine. Again, we might see it rest on that 20. If you want to just compare it to the last correction that happened, you can see that over time, as it stayed oversold for longer, that the price did go a little bit lower. So even from that dip to the 20-week, we still saw up to another 13-14% off. So just something to keep in mind as far as the other RSIs. Let's take a look at the regular relative strength index. Yeah, if it were to get more oversold, you might look for this 50 number here on the weekly. That's where Bitcoin found its base last time. Again, that's if it may. Now if this forms a base and it's higher than this point, that would show us at least a little bit of bullish divergence. So if we did see a base there, well, not divergence actually, that would just be bullish. Divergence would be if the price is lower and the strength is higher. So sorry for misspeaking. But if we saw the base go higher, then that would be a good way to look for bullishness. Another thing that I've talked about in prior videos is that we have on these buy-sell signals, and I use Heikin-Ashi candles to show us the trend. So you can see here that when we get these red sell signals, on average, we can go back to the start of this bull run. 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. This was a big one. This was 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks. So about 2 months there. 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, and 3 weeks. So I think another week or two of bearishness, and that might be it. But if it does go down again for another month, like it did down here, or I guess you could even say similar to what happened here, even though it turned green, we did get red again for another month or so. If that were to happen, that after we get some green or another few more red weeks, historically, at least in this cycle, that might be close to where we're finding a base. So just something to keep in mind. Now, if we zoom into the daily, we can see even better. This line right here is that double top trend line. And remember where that 20-week moving average was. Is a little bit higher around here, but this is the 200-day moving average. So if this double top trend line and this 100-day moving average, which you can see it got bought up pretty well back here, and the last time didn't get down to it. But if this double top trend line and the 100-day isn't able to hold, then we have the 20-week around here. We might see a candle body and a wick. And if all that breaks, then you're looking for the 200-day to hold up. So we got to take it by levels. Right now, you can see that since getting to this 100-day moving average, it's been rejecting off the 50-day, rejected off the 50-day, tested that double top trend line, rejected off the 50-day. So I'm looking around this 94K area. and maybe that will be reflected in the altcoins overall. All right. Now, you remember earlier in this video how I was talking about the rainbow chart, and we were looking at those orange bands. And so you're wondering, well, is there anything else in the charts to say that maybe we can see price line up in those orange bands? Well, I'll show you a couple things that lines up. One would be the logarithmic regression. And you can see here that when we are out on the weekly, the last couple tops or peaks happened in the upper half of that log regression. And so let's say we're going to get a top in March and all of a sudden this rockets up. That's at 155K. Remember that number because that is where an important fib level is for Bitcoin. So that 155K, just log that, put a pin in it, log that in the back of your brain there. You can see that number over on the right. So if we see a very similar move within the next month, then I'll show you why that's an important area to look for. Now, let's say you believe in August or September, then we can even raise this up a little bit more. Maybe 170K. Hell, you might be looking at early next year, and we can just continue this trend up where the log regression might go. That would be around 180K, maybe even closer to 200K would be closer to the higher end of this. So the logarithmic regression, which the last two peaks have shown has gone into that band, those might be tops to look for. As far as when that'll happen, no one knows, but if you see it getting up there, then that would be an indicator to watch. Now, as far as the Fibonacci retracement, we try to find the very peak. I'm going to go over here to the daily so we get this as close as we can. We find the very peak, and then I'm trying to line it up with the bottom over here, right there. Now, when you draw a fib, if you're looking on a macro scale, the daily or the weekly, and you're looking for price action in between, you want to make sure that your chart's on log and that your fib is also on log scale. That's good for finding these levels right here. But if you're taking a look for Fibonacci price extensions and where it could go, then we will take a look right here. And remember that 155K area I talked about? That is the 2618. Now the 1618 at around 101, 102K, depending on how much my fingers slide each time I do the fib, you can see that this 1618, that Bitcoin never really broke above it. We had a little bit of a candle body, but you can see it's really only wicks. And so it's been rejected at this 1618. Yes, wicks got above it, but then it's coming down to the double top trend line, coming to the 1618, double top trend line. You know, are we going to channel, or after bouncing down here, are we going to challenge this again? What you are looking for, this was from the March top. You can see it challenging those all-time highs from 2021 that it kept getting rejected. We kept seeing only wicks, not candle bodies. Once the candle bodies started closing above, then it was go time, and it went almost straight to the next fib line. So should we get a break above this area, watch for the log regression and also watch for that 2618. Now this 2618 is at 155. The 3618 is in the low 200Ks. You remember where the log regression was. The height of it is at around where 200K would be. I know there's a lot going on here, so bear with me. You can see that this 200K area right here, should this cycle get prolonged, it might reach close to 200K, maybe 180, 200K. So again, just marrying all this data. We have the fibs, we have the log regression, we have the rainbow charts. We can take a look at other indicators, the pi cycle top. Again, the orange bands. Those are areas to watch for to say, is Bitcoin topping right now? All right. And as far as why that matters, and going back to the earlier part of the video where I was sharing with you, when is alt season going to happen? Again, we need to see Bitcoin topping or in the process of topping. And so let me go to a cleaner Bitcoin chart. We'll do this one right here. And we have this, you can see similar fibs again. We'll get rid of that fib though. Again, what we're looking for is when does alt season happen? Now, I've shared with you when it happened at the peaks in 2017, right here, right after Bitcoin peaked, and here in early 21 in April. Here is what, wrong page. Here is what Bitcoin dominance looks like when we get alt season. Here, all right. Now, if you're wondering what Bitcoin dominance is, this is the overall percent. So right now, 60.75% of all money in crypto is in Bitcoin. And people go to Bitcoin as a flight to safety. They go to Tether as well. But once Bitcoin tops out and it's too expensive to buy, then you get this massive rotation into other altcoins. And I'll show you other charts to look at for those. So here's the massive rotation where the dominance, the percent that's in Bitcoin, 62% of all money in crypto is in Bitcoin. Oh no, it's too expensive. It rotates over. It drops down to 40%. This happened the last two cycles. You can see 60 down to 40. So right now, Bitcoin dominance, we did have a wick here, and overall, it is still in an uptrend. I got a little ahead of myself, and I'm willing to admit I was wrong on this, that when Bitcoin was going up, I was saying, watch this 20-week moving average. It finally broke. That's probably the top for dominance. Well, I was wrong, and technically, it was still bullish because it bounced off the 50-week moving average, and it's still going up. So we might see dominance come down here to 59%. Heck, we might even see it come down to 57%. Put on these moving averages, the 20, the 50, because if it starts breaking under the 50, then it's truly bearish. But until now, it's still in a bull trend. So dominance, we need to see this drop. Now it's in the territory, in my opinion. Dominance is in the general territory where it could drop. You can see last cycle, the peaks for dominance didn't get as high as in 2017. And so I drew this red line a long time ago, and that's where it peaked out to the first time. And I was wondering, is this going to be the area? And so far, it's kind of held up where we can see it just drop off a cliff. Is that going to happen in a month, 2 months, 10 months? I don't know. But this is the data to watch for. So going back over to Bitcoin and showing you what I was talking about with when we see alt season, right? It's the most important question that people ask. When is there going to be alt season? Okay, we see Bitcoin dominance. We're going to put that scale on. And you can see this pink reddish line. That's Bitcoin dominance. Let's zoom way in. Let's go to the daily. Let's look at it even more accurately. I have to scroll very carefully because I don't want to waste another 30 seconds of your time like I did earlier in the video. But let's take a look at this. This is where Bitcoin topped out in 2017, right? Topped out right there. Bitcoin dominance, you can see it was right in the middle of this area, but when it truly broke down, I'm looking at the pink reddish area. When it truly broke underneath here, that was after Bitcoin peaked. So once Bitcoin peaked, we were finishing that rotation from dominance. It started earlier, okay? It did start in December that year, but being someone who was there in 2017, the last 2 weeks of December and the first week of January was crazy euphoric times, right? Let's go back over to 2021, where we had the other alt season. Now, like I showed you before, here's this base, so we want to get below this base area, and you see there's another base here pretty close to there. Okay, where is Bitcoin at this time before it breaks, before dominance breaks down? Where is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is in the process of topping. Now, yes, it went up and it formed another peak right over here, and technically it did get higher here. Now, we didn't get alt season here, even though the price did go up just a little bit more. 65K, 69K, you can see that by the end, it just looked like a big double top. So going back to here, this is where dominance started falling. This is where we got alt season. And right there, what do you see with Bitcoin? From both times last cycle, you can say that Bitcoin was topped, in the process of topping. It was too expensive to buy anymore. And so we saw a rotation. All right, so that is what I'm looking for as far as dominance. Now there's other charts you can take a look at for alts overall. And people like to draw comparisons on these, which I will say, be careful with. We can draw a comparison that from the 2017 peak, that last cycle, once it broke above that all-time high, you can see it got to the 2618, eventually the 3618 area. You see this fib over here, okay? We took a look at these for the Bitcoin chart before, but here in alt season, it was going from the 1618, sorry, let's zoom way in here. It was going from the 1618 to the 2618, and that's when we had alt season, April, okay? So this time around, Bitcoin, it got up to the former peak, but it hasn't broken any higher. So in fact, it came down, and right now, the total market cap excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum, it came down to the 786. So we haven't seen, if you're just comparing last time, we haven't seen a break up again over to the 1618 or the 2618. I'll show you some other charts that go along with this as well. Tether dominance. Now, this one's interesting to me because Tether, it's a stable coin, keeps the value of $1. So right now, as far as this stable coin, 4.56% of all money in crypto is in Tether. And Tether maintains its value of $1. Okay, you can see that there. It's always $1, and there's $142 billion worth of money that's just in Tether waiting to be deployed. Now, as far as Tether, historically, when it hits this trend line, that tends to be local tops in the market, or when it gets these big dips, those are local tops. But if we zoom in here, what do we see? When Tether got to that trend line, it came up, it got rejected off the 50-week moving average. It's right at the 20-week. So right now, if we're comparing it to what happened last March, it's still bearish. It could still come down to lower levels, but if it starts breaking above the 50, that would be something to watch out for. Now, in my other videos, we've also talked about more than two, but a few other alt season indicators. One being Ethereum divided by Bitcoin. And if you're wondering what this means, this is just taking the market cap of Ethereum and dividing it by Bitcoin. So if we go back over to coin market cap, let's refresh so we get up to date prices. So you can see Bitcoin at around 1.9 trillion, Ethereum at around 330 billion market cap. I'm just rounding numbers here. Well, 330 billion to 1.9 trillion, that means Ethereum is around 17% of Bitcoin's market cap. So this is what Ethereum Bitcoin means. Now, this is the shadow of Bitcoin dominance. And when Ethereum Bitcoin bottoms, you can see that date here in 2017, it only took a month to have that rotation into alt season. Now, alt season ended January 8th of 2018, all right? But from this bottom in 2019, again, this is where the first peak of Bitcoin dominance was in 2019. It had that double peak, if you remember on the chart. It took about 600 days until alt season finished, right around here, May 10th, okay? At around 46%. And so, again, we're looking at that rotation. We're seeing Bitcoin's too expensive, and so there's that money that rotates into Ethereum and other altcoins. And so for all the people saying that alt season is dead, it's not happening, ask yourself, why are people saying that? Well, you can see it in the charts right here. Bitcoin dominance is peaking this cycle. Ethereum Bitcoin is still putting in newer lows. And until Ethereum Bitcoin gets above this 50-week moving average, it's still technically bearish. Now, I don't know if it's going to take a month to shoot up like 2017. I'm kind of leaning against that. Or if it's going to take somewhere around 600 days, 300 days. I don't know. But what we are looking for is this to reverse. Now, I just drew a fib here from the low to the high, and maybe that 786 around 0.14 might show us somewhat of a base. We'll see. There is one other chart to look at as far as when we might get in alt season. And others, by the way, this is a good chart to have. It's the crypto total market cap excluding the top 10. So it's the market cap of all the cryptos minus these guys, Tron, Cardano, Doge, Solana, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? So when we take that market cap, again, you saw what I did with Ethereum, but we're bundling everything outside the top 10, dividing it against Bitcoin. This is what we get. We get a chart like this. Let me turn off that moving average. But again, you can see where the 50 is. It's got to get above that 50 to get bullish. COVID times. No, that wasn't COVID. Never mind. So even right there, I thought COVID time, that was a COVID dip, but that happened way over here. Not as bad. So something to keep in mind with others, Bitcoin, as far as the 50-week moving average. This one looks a lot like total 3 divided by Bitcoin. Anyways, I digress. What do we see here for others Bitcoin? This is probably the most bullish chart I can show you right now. And what this shows is that others Bitcoin, here you can see again the date at the bottom, January 8th. That's when alt season was finishing. The market cap of all the altcoins against Bitcoin got up to here, okay? And then last cycle, this was the alt season. Now, we did get another spike, and even the alt season chart will show you that here was that April, May spike, here was that later 21 spike. Having lived through 2021, I don't know what else to tell you other than by showing you the charts with dominance. This was truly alt season, and that's when most altcoins were getting to their peaks. Some did peak later. That is true. This was truly what felt more like alt season, okay? But what do we notice here? Well, I just drew a channel, and this is probably the most bullish way to look at this, is that we have others Bitcoin, before I turn the fib off here, we have it reaching a higher low in this channel. So maybe this is the bottom here. One thing I wanted to show you is that last cycle, it did get up to this 1618 area. And so if this channel trend continues, that 2618 area, that's where I would be looking for a top for others Bitcoin, mostly in this channel. Now, maybe it breaks down underneath the channel, and we can make sure whenever we're looking at fibs between the prior highs and lows, you want to make sure it's on log. What do we see going on here? This is honoring the fibs pretty well. And you can see this was testing the 786, 888, 618. All right, 786, 888, broke down, tested the 786, 618, 0.5, broke through 786, came down 0.5, almost to the 382. In some people's opinion, when it stays above the 382, it's still technically bullish. But again, we'll see what happens here. It's still overall in a downtrend. But if we see this start to bounce off the 382 and form a base of higher lows here, that would be something to look for. So again, starting out this video, what did I talk to you all about? Is we want to get an educated guess of where we are this cycle. Are we close to alt season? Are we still a ways to go? In my opinion, and you can disagree with me, crypto does crazy stuff. It might rocket within the next 2 months and we get it. I don't know. But if, in my opinion, we are not seeing the price appear in the orange bands. So I don't think alt season is close yet. And we saw that on others Bitcoin. We saw that on Ethereum Bitcoin. Also, you can see that on the way up, let's just zoom in here a little bit. Let's zoom way in here. Since this bottom, what have we noticed in this rainbow band? Okay, look at these moves. Every time we get a move up to one of these higher rainbow bands, it kind of retests below. Move up into the green, comes back down, into the light green, comes back down. We get into the dark green, comes back down. Then we have a big move up into the yellow. We come back down 1, 2 color bars. Another big move up into the upper part of the yellow, down to the lower end. You know, maybe we get a little bit back into the green area, which would be between 70 to 90K. That would not shock me. By the way, so you see the 70, 90K area in the green. Where would that be for Bitcoin? At least on the weekly, the 50-week moving average, that would be in that range if we had a big move down. So again, if Bitcoin gets to this 20-week moving average, okay, at around 90K. If it gets a big move down, even somewhat close to the 50-week moving average, I'm not panicking. In fact, I'm looking to get deals, to get discounts on my favorite altcoins and mining stocks. That is the perspective I like to have, and it has served me well. But I know seeing these dips in prices, it doesn't feel good. And our alts usually feel worse. They definitely feel worse if you're in lower market cap altcoins. Things on the Solana chain, I don't recommend those. It's really like a casino. But if you're in some of these better altcoins, if you're in mining stocks, yes, you will feel some pain, but nowhere near as bad as some of those low cap gambles. So that's a losing game, in my opinion, to play those. So these are the altcoins I personally look at, ones that are in the top 100, maybe even top 200 miners, things such as that. So if we see Bitcoin forming a base around this area, I'm looking to buy in more. And in fact, right here, I don't think it's a bad area to look for some deals out there, even right now. I think there's good deals out there. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comments below. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? When do you think we might see Bitcoin top? Later this year? Next year? Again, the markets are going to do things that you never expected. We might have a bit of down and sideways for a little bit. Who's to say? But overall, and I'll marry this to one last data point here, is that seasonality wise, at least with new elections or new presidents, it's not too much of a shock to see this 100 days of downward, sideways price action. We have a new administration. The markets, the economy is adjusting. So this overall is pretty typical. Anyways, hope y'all are doing well and all the power, everything's working great. Sorry I couldn't do a live stream last Friday. Couldn't help it. So thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful week. Take care.